Well, good morning, everybody. We want to welcome everybody. I know we're catching up here in person, a little harder online, but we want to welcome all of our folks online this morning as well. My name is Chris Phelan. I am the president of the Hunterdon County Chamber. I want to welcome everyone to our ELC this morning, which is our Employer Legislative Committee that the Chamber has sponsored for many, many years, along with our partners at NJBIA, New Jersey Business and Industry Association. So I want to welcome you on behalf of myself. You'll hear from my co-chair of our ELC, Jim Robinson, momentarily, but we're excited to have both everyone back here in person. It's great to see so many here at our Unity Bank Center for Business and Entrepreneurship, and so many of you online as well. We will have an opportunity for Q&A, so those folks online, just ask you to keep your lines muted, and when we get to the Q&A, you can raise your hand and we'll call on you and go back and forth with those in person. Also want to thank Ryan Reed is here this morning, the owner-operator of Chick-fil-A here in Flemington. Thank him as our breakfast sponsor, so thank you very much, Ryan.
So make sure you take some, enjoy.
Anyone who brings free food is very welcome anywhere.
And those online, stop by about 9:30 and you can grab your breakfast here at the Chamber. But make sure you visit Chick-fil-A. We thank them for their partnership, not only with the Chamber, but with so many other community organizations and causes throughout Hunterdon County. So again, I want to welcome everyone. Feel free to take a look at our Chamber calendar. We have a great lineup of events. Things are starting to really move forward back in person with the Omicron hopefully behind us. We're excited about that. And we'll be moving in person, but we'll continue as well to do these hybrid opportunities. It's obviously something that now I think is part of the business community in a real big way. So, you know, the hybrid options will still be there. Want to mention just a couple things real quick on the Chamber's calendar. On the large scale coming up in April, we're very excited. We'll be inducting our third class. This is the Hunterdon Chamber of Commerce Foundation, our sister organization, into the Business Hall of Fame. We've got some incredible inductees that are going to be honored, and you're welcome to join us at that induction ceremony on April 27th up at the Ryland Inn. This has been a great program that the foundation started back in 2017, really to highlight and honor literally decades and a couple of our customers over a century in this county to inspire entrepreneurship, to inspire business and the like. So it's a really wonderful evening. Those videos are available online as well. So if you'd like to see any of our past videos on those honorees, they're up on the Chamber website. Our annual meeting was postponed February with everything going on in the world. We moved it to May. So May 18th will be our Chamber's annual meeting. We look forward to a great night. We're well over 150 attendees. 200 is our max. I think we're going to end up selling out. So we're excited about that. But that'll be a nice evening up at the Ryland again, along with some other programs that you can find online. So again, welcome to the Chamber this morning. I'm going to turn things over to Alexa Bailey from NJBIA, just to give us an update on what's happening down in Trenton. I want to thank BIA. The Chamber's been an active partner. I think there's well over 70 statewide business organizations, part of the New Jersey Business Coalition that got formed during the pandemic. We've been an active partner, and BIA does a great job with all of those statewide groups and county chambers and local chambers representing our voice down in Trenton on some very important issues. So thank you, Alexa, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Chris. Happy to be here this morning. My name is Alexis Bailey. I'm the Director of Government Affairs for the New Jersey Business and Industry Association. There's a lot going on in Trenton right now. Right now, the legislature is on their budget break, so they're not having any traditional committee meetings, but the Budget Committee is doing a number of meetings to listen into stakeholders, as well as all the various departments to talk about Governor Murphy's FY23 budget. So earlier this month, he announced his budget proposal, and this year's budget is $48.9 billion. And that's an increase of 41% from Governor Murphy's first budget to this budget. So we are very mindful and always watching and concerned with that level of increase. Right now, we're flush with cash from borrowing, federal funds, increased tax revenue than we expected, but we're always continually watching that increase because it really is unsustainable to continue to spend that much money over the long term. This budget also right now has a $1.7 billion structural deficit, meaning that we're spending $1.7 billion more than we're taking in. We're hoping that throughout the budget process, we can knock that number back a little bit to make sure that we have a balance in this budget. We were happy to see in this budget that there are no new taxes or fees proposed in this budget, but we were disappointed to see that with the strong cash position that we're currently in, we were hoping to see more structural reforms on how can we make New Jersey more competitive in our tax structure and address some of the root causes to some of the issues like property taxes that really have a heavy impact on our businesses and residents. Some key features in the budget this year is this is the second year that Governor Murphy is proposing a full pension payment.
No volume.
So that pension payment is a little bit over $6 billion. We're happy to see that as we have this strong cash position, like I said, we want to make sure that we're making sound fiscal decisions and taking care of all of our liabilities. So we're happy to see that. You've probably heard about Governor Murphy's anchor program that he's announced in the budget. This is a property tax rebate program where the average homeowner will probably get about $700 and renters about $250. We were happy to see that this was included in the budget from an affordability standpoint for our residents. However, we were hoping that something could be done to help property taxes that are paid by business owners, because in the state of New Jersey, businesses pay about half of the property tax bill in the state. And this program doesn't do anything to provide some relief for small business and our large corporations in the state. The bill includes $50 million for small businesses through the Main Street Recovery Fund. We are hoping that we can get more money into that fund because $50 million in a $48.9 billion budget is just 0.1%. And we've been fighting for the past 2 years, especially during the pandemic, for small business needs more support than just that. So we're hoping we can get some more in the budget this year. There is increased school aid funding across the board, which we're happy to see. However, again, we would hope that the legislature can start to look at what are the root causes, how can we fix the school funding formula so it's more equitable across the board and more sustainable for taxpayers. Another key feature in the budget is funding for affordable housing units. So the Mount Laurel decision says that New Jersey needs to have 3,300 more affordable housing units. This budget includes funding to create those units. So those are just some things that we're watching in the budget. Like I mentioned, the legislature is on a hiatus of regular committees right now, but there are still some bills that we are working on during this time before they come back in for committees. So there's a bill that we have been opposing, which is a prescription drug affordability board bill, which would create a prescription drug affordability board in the state that would then be able to set price controls on the pharmaceutical industry. We are strongly opposed to this because we don't want price controls to be set on any industry. And we understand where the legislature is coming from. They want to address affordability concerns for prescriptions. We just don't think this is the right way to do it. We also have been supportive of, for quite some time now, a bill that would put money into the Unemployment Insurance Trust Fund. As you all know, that fund was completely depleted throughout the pandemic when businesses were forced to close and people were forced to stay home. So we're hoping that this legislation, which is S733, sponsored by Senator Madden in the Senate, and Assembly Majority Leader Greenwald, that this bill would require that some federal funds be used to at least offset the cost of federal loans that we've taken out and the interest that we're paying there, and stop the tax increase that's going to hit the business community on year 3. So we're thinking that this is a nice compromise that can still provide some relief to the business community.
Being recorded. Join with computer audio there.
Sorry, that has faced this tax increase really at no fault of their own. So I'm happy to take any questions if you want to do questions now or at the end, but thank you so much for having me and look forward to the rest of the morning.
Thank you. Are there any questions at this point? We may have some that come in on the chat as well, so we'll take a look and then circle back. So thank you very much for your update this morning. So I'm going to turn things over to Jim Robinson. Want to thank again Commissioner Lanza for being with us. Want to welcome and thank Commissioner Soloway as well, who's joined us in the back there, and turn it over to Jim Robinson for our introduction.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much, Chris. It's a pleasure to be at the live end of a Zoom meeting for a change. It's an even greater pleasure to have the opportunity to introduce my friend, Hunterdon County Commissioner Director, John Lanza. John was first elected to the Freeholder Board in 2013. He was elected twice as a freeholder and once as a commissioner. Right, John?
No, all times as a free. First time this year.
John served as the director in 2017 and is the current director. When sworn in January, he committed himself to making Hunterdon the safest, healthiest, and best place to live, not only in New Jersey, but in the nation. and refer to Hunterdon business community as the lifeblood of this county. As a commissioner, John is focused on sustainable economic development, promoting the county's economic strategic plan, helping Hunterdon residents and businesses navigate past the pandemic and Hurricane Ida. Citing the Stockton University tourism study and given the economic potential of tourism, at the January reorganization meeting, Director Lanza proposed elevating the Office of Economic Development to the Department of Economic Development and Tourism, and directed that tourism be one of its primary areas of focus. John studied political science at Boston University, received his law degree from Seton Hall Law School, and since 2005 has practiced law about 12 doors down the street here on Main Street in Flemington. John grew up in Raritan, has lived in Clinton and Lambertville. Now he and his wife Kyra and kids are back in Raritan. As the commission director, he is going to tell us about the state of the economy. Is it good, great, or absolutely amazing? Happy to present a thoughtful, intelligent, and philosophical leader, Hunterdon County Commission Director, John Lanza.
Thank you, Jim. How do I live up to that? That's fantastic. Although my friends from Boston College are
Becky,
going disappointed.
shortcuts. Video, so I see the video. Test speaker, same as system. Test mic.
Thank you, Chris. Always a privilege to be here in front of the chamber, this organization, and Chris has been ahead of this organization for as long as I've been in office, and the chamber's been a great asset to the business community here in Hunterdon County. So before I get started, I just wanted to recognize all that you do to help the business community here in this county, and especially proud of the partnership and the several partnerships that the county of Hunterdon has with the chamber. So thank you very much for hosting me, and thanks for doing what you do today. And as we reflect on the greatness of the health of the state of this county, which Mr. Robinson has predicted that we will get into, I want to first at least direct our thoughts and prayers to some people who don't have the quality of life that we have right now, about 5,000 miles away in Ukraine, upon whom the most villainous leader of the 21st century, Vladimir Putin, is inflicting death and destruction. I think that we all have our disagreements, we all have problems, and they pale in comparison to people who are being invaded by their neighbors. So let's think about them as well on this day. Now, as Jim alluded to earlier, every time a political leader takes the stage to address their state of address, you're conditioned to hear certain things over and over again. That the state of the nation, the state of the city, the state of whatever it is, whatever governing body that they preside over, the state of it's great, that it's getting better, it's getting stronger, it's on the right path, and that it's simply great. This is all standard political tripe that you're all conditioned to hear, but I want you to understand something, that when I tell you the state of Hunterdon County is in fact strong, that this county is in fact the safest and the healthiest place to live, and that our county is an extremely desirable place in which not just to reside and raise a family, but to do business and to work, that economic growth and opportunity are here. Those are more than just the standard words that you get from any person who runs a government. These things are facts, and they are supported by and verified by independent third-party sources, by quantifiable data, and by the actions of our county government itself. Here's a fact. The international nonprofit Save the Children Fund, an organization founded over 100 years ago, devoted solely to serving children's needs and securing their rights, has recognized Hunterdon County as the safest county in America to raise a child. I see Director Soloway nodding her head because that came out when she was director last year. Safest county in America, folks. This is an incredible distinction. And it's not just important to me as a member of the county commissioner board, it's also important to me as a father. My wife and I are raising a third grader and a first grader here in Hunterdon County, and it also justifies my leaning on my wife to cross the Delaware and come from Philadelphia to come live here. It's like tissue rejection when these people come across the Delaware. I mean, thank God George Washington wasn't raised in Philadelphia. Otherwise, we'd still have the Queen Elizabeth on our coins, but it justifies bringing people here and raising them here because it's the safest place to raise them. And I can almost close my remarks with that because that is just a remarkable distinction. But as the old infomercial says, wait, there's more. The U.S. News and World Report's annual Healthiest Communities rankings has listed Hunterdon County as one of the healthiest counties in the nation. And one of the benchmarks used in calculating that result is education, where Hunterdon County ranks second in the entire country. Second in the entire country. We're not just talking about competing with Bergen County, we're talking about the entire United States. And according to a recent report by the University of Wisconsin Population Health Initiative that was funded by the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, Hunterdon County was determined to be, you guessed it, the healthiest county in New Jersey. A report by 24/7 Wall Street, a financial news company, has determined that Hunterdon County is one of the 20 best places to live in the entire country, based on the United Nations Development Program's Human Development Index. Let's not forget the leadership and dedication of municipalities. That's also been recognized by SafeWise.com, an online resource that analyzes safety around the nation, has announced that Clinton Township, Raritan Township, and Reddington Township are among the 50 safest towns in New Jersey and placed Raritan among the 100 safest in the country. Now think about those three municipalities and their populations. That's 40% of Hunterdon County's municipalities that are included in this designation. Third-party independent verification of what we all know, that Hunterdon County is a great place to live, great place to work, and a great place to raise a family, and a great place to do business. And if anyone's been paying attention to the real estate market, you know that people want to move here. We've experienced an increase in population this past decade for the first time in several decades. The data will tell you the story. According to the County Board of Taxation, Hunterdon County has enjoyed a 5.5% increase in rateable values over this year. And I can tell you from over a decade, this is more than double the rate of increase that we have seen at any time in roughly the last 10 years at least. The total ratables for 2021 were just over $22 billion in property value. This year, it's $23.2 billion. That's nearly a $1.2 billion increase in valuation in 1 year. And that's growth, as I said, we haven't experienced in several years, certainly not during the time that I've been in office. And while we're not going to suggest that we're the reason for why property values went up, there are a bunch of factors, but what we've done is a factor. And that would be our conservative fiscal philosophy over the years. That should be considered a factor. This county has no debt. It has had no debt since 2014. That was the end of my first year in office. We made our last debt payment and we haven't incurred another dime of debt since. And today, even when you factor in the American Rescue Fund money that we have to spend by a certain amount of time, our budget is still going to be lower today than the budget the county commissioners for then freeholders passed in 2008. I'm not adjusting for inflation. I'm just giving you the raw numbers, facts, verifiable, independent data. We are spending less today than the budget passed in 2008, even when you count the American Rescue Fund's money that we're required to spend by 2024. And there are hosts of reasons for these fiscal achievements. We did this not with smoke and mirrors, but by making decisions and applying cost-benefit analysis to all our spending decisions, working diligently to find budget savings without sacrificing the effectiveness of county services or programs. And I'm just going to mention one example, the decision by Sheriff Fred Brown and the board back in 2015 to establish a jail consolidation shared service, which we made that decision in 2015 and implemented in 2016. And I can tell you, I was on the board at the time. I was one of the people who supported it. We took a lot of heat for making that decision. But I think after we take a look at the results of the last 5-6 years, we can see that it's a success. That decision, which was criticized at the time, resulted in a total savings of $1.6 million in operating costs since its inception. Additionally, the county avoided having to spend anywhere between $5 and $10 million to refurbish the jail as it existed to bring the county facility into compliance with state regulations. Initially, the county partnered with Somerset County on this jail consolidation program, and we saved money. But in 2020, Hunterdon joined with Warren County at the sheriff's recommendation to achieve an even greater savings upon what we were already saving in Somerset. Since moving to Warren County in February of 2020, over $800,000 has been saved versus the cost of Somerset County, where we were already saving money as a consequence of the consolidation. Sheriff Brown, in his report to the board this past February, told us the service is well run, it's financially efficient, and should be classified as a great success. I agree, and I want to thank him for his efforts in making one of the tough decisions that's turned out to be a success and has redounded to the benefit of the taxpaying public of Hunterdon County. Economic growth, as Jim said earlier, has been a focus of mine and a focus of the entire board since I came to office in 2014. The county has dedicated resources, brought in a proven economic development professional in Mark Salick to implement the county's economic strategic plan, and has seen the kind of light footprint economic growth that is in line with promoting opportunities while maintaining Hunterdon County's quality of life. The Economic Development Office has worked in close cooperation with the Chamber, including housing our office right here in the Chamber's building. Disoriented back here, yeah, there. The county has been financially supportive of its municipalities and encouraged examination of various rules, regulations, and ordinances with an eye toward creating a more positive environment for commerce in those towns that wish to do so. And for any of you who know Mark, I think the word tireless is the one that immediately comes to mind. And he has indeed been tireless in his efforts to promote the county, including working with various industry site selectors from around the nation to encourage those professionals to keep Hunterdon County in mind when it comes to relocating the business. And we've decided to also focus on tourism as one of the key aspects of building economic growth. Several years ago, with the aid of a grant from the Highlands Council, the county partnered with Stockton University, as Jim mentioned before. Jim, you did your homework today. We did a study with Stockton University that revealed not only steady growth in the tourism sector here in Hunterdon County, but potential for much more growth. And the study recommended maximizing the county's potential as a tourism destination by working with both public and private partners to coordinate a strategy to broadly promote and celebrate Hunterdon County's charm and beauty. It's easy to do, bring anybody out here. And the result has been the recent development of the 579 Trail, featuring artisanal food and beverage makers, and Hunterdon Main Streets, focusing on local merchants. These efforts support a huge number of small businesses in the form of driving customers to farms, Main Street businesses, vineyards, and much more. And to emphasize the significance and importance of tourism to our county's economic growth, and to encourage the development of a fully comprehensive tourism effort. Earlier this year, the board elevated the Economic Development Division to the department level and renaming the unit the Department of Economic Development and Tourism. During the course of the next few months, tourism initiatives will be rolled out, and a new branding effort, an effective use of social media, and overall marketing strategies, and more. So stay tuned for more announcements on that front. While all our county governments, departments, boards, and commissions serve our people with great commitment, given the incredible demands of the pandemic and performance of the county's Department of Health is deserving of special acknowledgement. From the earliest days of the pandemic, from the scarcity of masks and PPEs, initials that most of us had probably never heard of before February or March of 2020, to contact tracing, another previously unknown phrase, and to the lack of initial testing resources, to limits on the availability of vaccinations, to massive vaccinations, and to more testing demands, shutdowns, limited startups, mask protocols, and all the rest of these things. Hunterdon County's Health Department, led by Director Karen DeMarco, who, even if she were not here, I would be saying these great things about her. She has stood tall She's done a great job, and she and her entire department have served this county well. The entire health team is deserving of our recognition, and that's one of the reasons I bring it up today. I know that Ms. DeMarco has consistently made herself available to advise the chamber and the county's business community about the evolving and often confusing health protocols throughout the pandemic, and has been proven to be a valuable resource to all of you. I do wish to offer a shameless plug for our testing facility over on Rayville Avenue in Flemington. That's managed by Vault Medical Services and is overseen by our health department. The state has funded that facility since February 3rd. That funding ran out as of last week, March 26th. Our board has opted to approve continuing its operation at least for another month through April 30th using CARES Act grant funds. That clinic has administered over 2,000 tests, and the demand remains high, even though the overall caseload is low. Now, I'll explain why. People still need tests to go to work. People still need tests to go to school. Sometimes they need tests to visit loved ones in the hospital, or people just wish to be careful about spreading the virus to others at home or at work. The testing facility specifically offers a resource to business here, so that both vaccination and testing can be options for employers and employees alike, particularly for those who have a medical or religious reason that prohibits vaccination. They can continue to be tested in their work. The test site is free and is available to all who live or work in Hunterdon County, Tuesday, Wednesday, Fridays, and Saturday from 10 to 4, and Thursday from noon until 7. I mentioned earlier the fiscal and operational success we had with the jail consolidation, thanks to the leadership of Sheriff Brown. With the sheriff, along with County Clerk Mary Melfi, Surrogate Susan Hoffman, the Dean of all surrogates in New Jersey, and our new prosecutor, Renee Robeson, our county is very fortunate to be served by dedicated, honest, and committed constitutional officers. And of course, any achievements by the county, they don't belong to me. They're part of a team effort amongst the county commissioners as well. And I would be saying this even if Commissioner Soloway were not here. I think all of our success can be attributed to our entire board, not only to their dedication of service, but to the fact that we work well together. We not only have great individuals, but we come together as a great team, and I'm just privileged to be part of it. And that would include Deputy Director Zach Rich and Commissioner Holt, Commissioner Soloway, and Commissioner Van Doren, who together, in my view, do whatever they can to work in the best interest of others. Even when we don't agree, we know that disagreement comes from the right place. And that place is to serve the taxpayers of this county. And I think we have an exceptional team of public servants. And so I'm blessed to serve with them, and I thank them for their support. I previously served as director in 2017. And as I stated in my remarks at the board's reorganization meeting on January 4th, 2017 feels like eons ago. We're facing a very different world today than we were 5 years ago. We are now in year 3 of the COVID pandemic. And as difficult and challenging as the pandemic has made government, Hunterdon County has never faltered. We, as a board, have never faltered in our conservative fiscal philosophy nor in delivering services to the public, and we never will. As I said on January 4th, my goal for this year is not to bemoan the trials and tribulations that face us as elected officials during the pandemic. It's to fight through it and to look to the future of this county and to ensure that Hunterdon County remains the safest, the healthiest, and the best place to live, not only in New Jersey, but in America. We'll continue to do that every day. So I thank you all for your time. I thank you for being here. God bless you. God bless this country. Okay. Some questions? Leslie.
First of all, thank you so much for being here. And I too want to echo a big thank you to Karen DeMarco and the entire healthcare system, because I can tell you they were great through the pandemic, especially really providing us the right things we need to do to operate our own businesses. So we too are very grateful. I want to, if I can, ask you questions about the American Rescue funds.
Sure, let me get my coffee first.
Sure. I want to say I was very grateful that the county actually had, if you call them, listening sessions about input on where we felt that the funds could be utilized. Is there a place, first of all, that people can look to see what is being funded by the American Rescue Act or funds? I'm not sure the proper terminology, in particular in the human services, obviously, being from prevention resources, that's a big concern of ours. And I think some of the reasons why we have been able to be the healthiest and the safest is because we jump in front of things that are happening. A lot of things were expressed during that human services session, and I'm just wondering if there's a place, if any of those areas are still being reviewed or where we're at.
Yeah, I think we're still, a lot of things are under review. There are two tranches of money that are to be spent. The first hit the account last year, that was $12 million, that was half of it. The other half hits this year. Kevin, it hasn't hit yet this year, the second 12 million. Well, it will.
There is a website for Hunterdon County American Rescue information, which on that website will be listed whatever the money's for. And the most recent allocation was for the plumbing food pantry and grow operation.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we certainly publicize these things as we allocate the funds. We had retained a consultant to make sure that we were able to make it through the Byzantine rules of the federal government when it comes to spending of this money. It comes with a lot of strings. And so we wanted to make sure that we did this correctly, that we did it with a plan, and that we didn't just burn through this money like it's Brewster's Millions, because there's almost an incentive to do that because you're forced to spend this money by 2024. But what we've done is we have hired somebody to help us establish a plan on how to distribute this money in an effective manner. And certainly the human services part of it is a component to what we plan to do with these funds, because we're going to spend them wisely and we're going to do them in the rules. Yes, Jim.
John, you talked about two things that are very near and dear to my heart. One was shared services, and you touted the savings that they were able to come up with respect to the jail. And the other is what the Office of Economic Development has done to assist municipalities and ordinances and things like that. Many years ago, there was a state grant and the chamber coordinated the shared services program in Hunterdon County. That grant went away and that director went away. But as you've indicated, there's a great savings, tremendous potential for savings for shared services. Do you see something in the future where the county might coordinate something with municipalities and the counties to shared services?
Yeah, Jim, I think everything's on the table. We're always looking for ways to deliver a service effectively without the duplication of services and the wasting of money. Just back to the example of the jail. This didn't just come out of nowhere. It wasn't that, oh, well, the jail's in shambles and, you know, we have all this money we have to spend, what do we do? And we were seeing around a corner there because our jail population was decreasing because of a few factors. One was that bail reform was on its way, so fewer people were going to have to be incarcerated. Our rate of occupancy, so to speak, over at the jail was, say, about 60 to 65% of capacity, and it was declining. So you start thinking about, okay, we're at 60 to 65%, we're declining. What is the average daily cost on average of housing an inmate there? And the numbers just didn't add up. And never mind the fact that there was going to be a $5 to $10 million capital expense just to get the place up to snuff. Because by the time, before this board was in place, the county typically would spend next to nothing on a project, let it fall apart, and then put it back together with bubble gum and duct tape. We refused to do that. So we took a look at what we needed to do, and we took a look at the average cost. And there was already a movement afoot amongst some of the South Jersey counties to consolidate their jail services and save money. And with the bail reform thing just lurking in the distance, we knew that there were going to be fewer people being housed, and therefore it did not justify burning $5 to $10 million of your money to get a facility up to snuff that wasn't going to be used. So we keep looking to try to see around corners as to where there's going to be an opportunity, and then we're going to jump on it. And I think what's great about serving on this board, I don't have this experience, but all of my colleagues do. Everybody else who serves on the commissioner board once served as a mayor of a municipality. And so they bring that experience here that they've dealt with tight budgets, overextended taxpayers, and looking for ways to save. And so they bring that experience to the board. And so we're always looking for ways to do that.
Yeah.
And to the extent that the county can facilitate it, we're going to do that. Joey.
Staying on the issue of the jail, what are the plans for that building? Before that was built, that was land that was in the borough that could be on the tax rolls in the borough. Are there plans to return that, to dismantle the jail? I mean, right now, is it used for anything at all? If it's not used, I would imagine that that land can be returned to the borough in some way, maybe in some fashion. I'm just wondering if there are any plans in the future regarding that.
Yeah, we haven't decided that yet, Joey, and I think those are some good options that are on the table. One is, first of all, is there a need for us to have a facility for the prosecutor's office that's outside of the Justice Center? That was a concern that was raised by the previous assignment judge. So we need to see whether we're actually going to need that land to build a facility for their office. I'm not sure that we necessarily need to do that, and I do think that there is a sense amongst many of the commissioners that to the extent that we can take land and return it to the tax rolls, that's what we'd like to do. And I've had that discussion, well, not even much of a discussion. It's been mentioned in passing with Mayor Driver, and she's raised the concern with me, and I think it's a valid one. And so we just need to decide whether we need that land, what it costs to convert it into whatever it is we might need, or whether we're simply going to return it to the tax rolls to the private sector.
And is there some timetable to make that choice, since the county has been saving a great deal of money? Thank you. With regard to the jail, I'm wondering if there is some timetable that you're looking at, a year, 2 years, to make that decision and possibly return the land to the borough.
I don't think that that's something that's on the front burner right now, but it's something that we're certainly going to be considering in the near term. I don't want that eyesore to sit there forever.
Well, as a resident of the borough, I'd love to see taxable land returned to, or certainly something as prominent and on Park Avenue as it is there. Thank you.
Mr. Soloway, you have anything you wanted to add to that? And
Talking about jails, Edmund Mahan property, what is going on with that area or status of that jail?
yeah, that's something that's within the dominion of the state of New Jersey. And look, this is something that's outside of what I typically get involved in. I would be very happy if that facility ceased to exist. The inmates were sent someplace where the ghosts of sexual abuse are not in the hallways. So I think it would be wise for the state to shut that facility down and move any inmates to other places where they don't have the type of history that it does.
Are there any questions from our folks online? You can just raise your hand or indicate. Anyone online have a question? Hands going up. Any other questions?
They said everything you needed to say, or the caffeine wasn't really in the coffee.
I have one last question. There are no others. What do you think are going to be the biggest hurdles going forward next year or two for the commissioners?
I think the biggest hurdle always is and continues to be the property tax issue. It is the issue that is the biggest hurdle for affordability for people in the state. It is a regressive tax. It doesn't matter how much money you made last year or how much money you made this year. Outside of the county's portion of your property taxes, it's probably going to go up because regardless of the school aid that's been rained down everywhere else in the state, in Hunterdon County, we get less. And unlike the federal government, we don't get to print, the school boards don't get to print money to fill that gap. They raise your property taxes. So that reform of that and the absence of any appetite to have any sort of real reform of the property tax system in this state is, I think, our biggest obstacle to doing what we want to do here, because it is absolutely exasperating when you spend every waking moment of your time in office to try to deal with the property tax problem, because everybody knows it's everybody's problem. And you work your rear end off, your staff will work days and nights to make sure that you're not increasing property taxes in the county. Yet you only account for 20% of the property tax bill. 10% of it is the municipality, and most of your towns are doing a good job. It's the other 70% that is out of control. And it's not necessarily out of control because the school board members are doing a bad job. They are being compelled to receive less money. And the school funding problem dovetails with the property tax issue. And quite frankly, that's one of the biggest problems when it comes to attracting businesses to this county. Because just over the river, there's a state that doesn't have this property tax problem. So we have to try to find other creative ways to attract people and to try to make this the type of place where someone might want to sink their money, even though there's a staggering annual cost in the way of property tax. Yes.
Hi, Jim and Audio, is there a search, also live in the county. I would say that the property tax issue is a bargain, actually. I've done the math. I mean, I don't know, no politician has ever explained the math to people properly. If you have two kids, right, I have two kids, you have two kids. It's cheaper to pay property tax here, go to public school. Like when we moved here 26 years ago, we could move to South Carolina. Okay, property taxes there was like $2,000 versus like 10 here. But they said, if you're sending your kids to school, you got to send them to private school because the schools there suck, to be honest with you. And that's true half the states in this country, the schools suck. So you're sending your kid to private school, you do the math. It actually costs more to send your kid to private school, go to a cheap property tax state, than to send your kids public school here. I say, in fact, and then you have leftover for 25 more years to live without your kids. Because you have 13 years for each kid, right? Because you kindergarten through 12. So it's 26 years for two kids at $10,000 a year. It's cheaper than paying $10,000 a year per kid for private school plus $2,000 or $3,000 for property tax. So you have to sell it, because we don't necessarily have to attract more people to Hunterdon County. Because then, you know, you said you already had to increase the population, right? So we're already doing a good enough job to sell the county. We don't need to, so do we need to, I mean, I know people want less property taxes, but like you said, it's in the schools. And that's the main reason you're here, is because it's the best schools in the country. So you gotta pay, you know, it has to cost something.
I agree with you,
So-
but the problem is that businesses don't send anybody to school. And people that are deciding to relocate a business, the school system is not exactly as much of a concern as their day-to-day operation costs. And I'll tell you that.
I think that I would
Well,
disagree that most businesses do care that their employees have a place where their kids can go to school. You know, that's what, because nowadays you have to attract employees.
Well, I agree with that too.
I don't
I'm a small
have any
business
kids in
about-
the school system and I'm paying property taxes. How's that fair to me?
Well, here's
I'm not getting that.
what I'm gonna say. Because my friends who were neighbors of mine in Lambertville and pay the lowest property taxes of anybody in Hunterdon County disagreed with your analysis and moved to Savannah and are sending their kids to the most expensive private school and are still paying less than they were paying in property taxes in Lambertville. So not everybody agrees with that assessment, number one. Number two, I would also say that, look, I grew up here. I convinced my wife to move here from Pennsylvania for us to get married and have a family. So I understand the value of our schools. The way they're funded are inefficient. The fact that we have 30 school districts in a county with 125,000 or 128,000 people is absolutely ridiculous. The fact that we have 30 superintendents, 30 principals, more than 30 principals. We got principals for every single school, but 30 superintendents and those are six-figure pensionable jobs that probably could be condensed down to about half a dozen. Now, we want to keep the polytech people. But it seems crazy to me that we we have 30 different school districts and school boards with such a small population. It's fairly homogeneous, by the way. And so to say that this is a bargain, I think most people won't agree with you because we have a lot of outflow here. We've dealt with outflow for about 30 years. And we've been fortunate enough to get people who by and large are coming from higher tax counties in New Jersey who don't want to leave New Jersey. And I'm all for the public schools being good. My kids attend them. And I just think that we've been wasteful and we're uncompetitive. And that's one of our problems, and we got to deal with it. And I think that explaining that to most people is whistling past the graveyard stuff. We have a property tax problem in New Jersey. Most of our schools are excellent. Some of them are not. And the some that are not getting any better because of the billions of dollars we're pumping into them. And so I think we have to reevaluate what we're doing, how we're educating people, and how we're paying for it. And this property tax issue doesn't go away. A senior citizen who hasn't had a kid in the schools in 25 years is kind of tired of paying property taxes at this rate. Even with the freeze, they're still high. So I would disagree with you very strongly about the property tax issue. Most people don't see it as a bargain. Yeah.
John, one of the reasons that the high schools in Hunterdon County are so great is because you have a regional high school system. You only have 5 high schools. And years ago, there were a group of people headed by 2 former freeholders that wanted to consolidate the elementary schools in the county. And their motivation was cost savings. I was involved with that, not only because of cost savings, but also because I thought if you had a regional elementary system, you would have a coordinated curriculum so that when those kids got to one of the 5 county high schools, they would have all had the same curriculum and there would have been a programmatic advantage to them as well. I don't know what, I think that committee died a slow death or disbanded. I haven't heard anything about it recently, but is anybody looking at that going forward and reestablishing that?
I think we should be. And Jim, I think unfortunately, the only thing that's going to prompt that from coming back to the forefront is when the sugar rush of all of the newly printed money from Washington wears off. And because right now, everyone's spending their Brewster's millions in governments from the federal to the state level, and everyone's acting like there's no problem. Well, you heard our representative from NJBIA say that there is still a structural problem, regardless of all the sugar that's been sent to us by Washington. And unfortunately, it's only when we have a dire necessity that we start thinking about those types of things. And I think one of the reasons that I would say that my colleagues have been very successful in predicting and averting wastefulness at the county levels, we've seen around the corners and we've addressed them before they become crises. Unfortunately, the trend I've seen with the state is that we have to be on the verge of bankruptcy before we're going to do anything. But I do think we ought to start thinking about consolidating boards of education amongst the sending districts, because you're right. In the sending district where my kids will be going to school, we're in Flemington-Raritan. Flemington-Raritan has a different curriculum from Delaware, which has a different curriculum from East Amwell, which has a different curriculum from Reddington. Everybody comes in at a different level and having different things stressed in each of the different member sending districts. So we probably should be coordinating these things so that every 9th grader that shows up at Hunterdon Central has the same basic skill set that is taught from K through 8. They shouldn't be on different levels and they shouldn't be at a disadvantage because they live on this side of the township border.
Thank you.
Yeah, John, a follow-up question with regard to this gentleman here. Consolidation of school districts, merging of towns, shared services are all things that are thrown around a lot. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. I'm just wondering, what do you think at the county level the board can do to I guess, motivate school districts to merge? Do you think that that's a state issue alone? Do you think that it's something that the board can do to encourage districts to consolidate to save money?
I wish the state gave us more of an ability to do things. I mean, unfortunately, the authorization statutes only allow a county to do whatever the legislature says we can do. So we don't have any control over the school districts. We don't have control over how they're structured. But I'm sure that there are studies that can be funded that we could potentially throw some money at that would encourage some of the school districts to look at this. Because again, I think everybody in this room is for kids getting a great education. It's why you live here. It's why I live here. Not just because I grew up here and I went through the school system and got socially promoted through it, but nevertheless, I think it's pretty good. And that's why I decided to raise my kids here, because I'm fortunate enough to have a choice. So, but I do think that at least from the political infrastructure, we can try to encourage people within the organization that this is something worth looking at. And hey, if the legislature is willing to give us the power to be able to form the structure of the education system, I'm all for it. Because I think in a county such as Hunterdon, I mean, not one size doesn't fit all. Hunterdon is going to be very different from Bergen or Salem. But I think here in Hunterdon County, we have a fairly homogeneous population, and I think it's something that can work. And we have a small population. We're I think only what are we, Kevin? The 6th lowest population in the state of New Jersey, 7th, something. We're in that bottom third there. So it's much more workable because there are fewer people, and there's much more stuff that overlaps within a smaller geographical zone.
Thank you.
Anyone else still awake and good?
Any other questions? Well, thank you. Thank you to everybody for joining us here this morning, and those online, and to our partners at BIA. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Yeah.